this is Michael Ludden, and this is my review of the Google Pixel. Just for quick background on this review, just like the Pixel XL, I'm going to compare similarly sized phones. So for this, we'll be comparing this with the Galaxy S7, not S7 Edge, and the iPhone 7. And this is important for a number of reasons, including battery life and screen resolution, stuff like that. There's small differences that may impact your daily performance. So if you want to see how the Pixel XL stacks up with the Pixel, with the larger competition, check out the previous review I did of the Pixel XL. And also be on the lookout for an upcoming comparison between the Pixel and the Pixel XL, where I'll go into all of the nitty-gritty in detail. I'll touch on some stuff here, but I won't go into too much detail. Okay, so background on this phone. First phone designed by Google. ODM was HTC, but it's similar to how Apple does their stuff with Foxconn. So Apple designs it, Google designs it, and then HTC produces it, Foxconn produces it, kind of. So that's the difference between this and the Nexus line, according to Google. So this is unlocked and available for any carrier, including Verizon and Sprint, CDMA, GSM. That's nice, and it's sold by Verizon in-store exclusively, and online at the Google Store, Best Buy, and you can also get it on Amazon, and I have that link below. And you'll also get software updates with zero carrier interference directly from Google. There's a 2-year guarantee from Google, so that's great. Prices, it's very, very expensive. It's just as expensive as an iPhone, but this is less expensive than the Pixel XL, so this is $649 for the 32GB version, which I'm reviewing in very silver. $749 for the 128GB, so basically $100 more. And then for the Pixel XL, it's $120 more of each model, so that's $769 for Pixel XL 32GB and $869 for Pixel XL 128GB. All right, so now that that's out of the way, we are going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of this phone, and then we're going to go over should you buy it, and then we're going to go over should you upgrade from an existing flagship, and or should you get the Pixel and or Pixel XL. So with that said, let's start talking about the good. So the good, number one, maybe not the most important, but the first thing we're going to talk about is a headphone jack. You have a headphone jack. Never thought that would be a feature in 2016, but there it is. Makes a difference. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to listen to your music if you don't charge your Bluetooth or wireless accessories, which is very annoying still because the batteries on those are very not ready for prime time. So it was stupid of Apple to do that, of all the upgrades they could have made to their own phone. Okay, so the other thing I'll say, next great thing is performance is really, really great. Performance is, I would say, the best, even better slightly in every situation than the Pixel XL. The reason for that is this is a lower resolution 1080p display as opposed to the Pixel XL's QHD, so it's pushing more pixels. Now the Snapdragon 821 processor, the newest one, newer than the Galaxy S7, the one in the Galaxy S7, which is the 820, can handle anything. So in most situations, you won't see a performance difference between the Pixel XL and Pixel in my experience, but for certain things like graphically intensive games and apps, sometimes I will say that this loads slightly faster and then is slightly smoother in the frame rate, but really not that much of a difference. It's almost negligible. But in both cases, for both phones, as you compare it to the competition, it is much faster in everyday use, switching between apps, multitasking, than any iOS device or any other Android device. Even with its lower resolution, and the iPhone 7 and although less RAM than the iPhone 7 Plus, this is faster. And the Galaxy S7, which also has to push a QHD display like its bigger Galaxy S7 Edge brother, is a little bit more sluggish than this. They're both very fast phones, but again, pushing all those pixels and on a slightly older processor, this is faster and smoother. Some games take longer to load than on either of those two. So Samsung tweaked their stuff to make the games load faster, and they also handle benchmarks better. It's not functionally faster, I'll say that. And the iPhone 7 loads games a lot faster. Once they're loaded, performance is fantastic, and you can multitask really great. I've never had any lag on this. It's just a dream to use. It has UFS 2.0 internal storage, so that that's not a bottleneck for performance. The storage internally, it also has 4 GB of RAM, so you're not going to run into any problems here. Next great thing, this has really great battery life. Now it has a smaller battery than the Pixel XL, larger battery than the iPhone 7, about the same as the Galaxy S7, much better battery life than the Galaxy S7, a little bit better than the iPhone 7. This will get you through a day. In my daily use, I've only seen this get about an hour or so less on average than my Pixel XL. And you know, it'll get you through a normal day of use with ease, and it has really fantastic battery life, especially for the size of the phone. Next, camera is the best. This camera, no camera bump, oops, no camera bump, holler. The camera on this guy is the best camera I've used. Just barely though. There are a lot of great cameras out there right now, so let's talk about it. So this uses a Sony f1.9 aperture lens with larger 1.55 pixels to let more light in, and on the front, get an 8 megapixel f2.2 aperture, same larger 1.55 pixels for letting in more light, resulting in a great camera. It's lacking things, hardware features like optical image stabilization, and some phones like the Galaxy S7 and even iPhone have f1.8 and f1.7. I forget which one, or things, f1.8 aperture, which should result in a better camera, but really where Google wins, oh, and by the way, it has laser autofocus, so that's something that LG has. It helps it focus ridiculously fast. We'll talk about that in a second. But really where they win is on software. Actually, let's talk about the laser focus. So when you talk about the laser focus, so I never expect any phone to be faster than the Galaxy line. It's so fast to focus. But I was very shocked. This focuses at least as fast as the Galaxy S7 line, and a ton faster than the iPhone 7, which is still fairly slow to focus. And that makes a lot of a difference for me in daily usage. The other hardware feature I'll talk about is the quick launch. So on the Galaxy S7, they have this option where you double tap the home button on the front and it launches the camera. And then with its fast focus, you can snap a shot almost instantly and get an amazing photo. That makes a difference for the way that I shoot photography, which is basically I want to whip out my phone and take a shot quickly when I see something. It makes all the difference in the world to me, those two things. This also has that feature. It's on the side. You press the power button, you double tap the power button, and it gets you to launch the camera like that. I'll show you. And then it's very fast to focus. So in my daily use, once you get used to once you get used to the pressing the side button instead of the home button, it's just as fast as a Galaxy S7 to snapshots. Now I still prefer it on the front. It's a little more convenient, but I will say that it focuses at least as fast, and I get slightly better pictures on the whole. So let's talk about the real differentiator, not the hardware, it's the software. So Google has two really big features here that make all the difference in the world to me. Electronic image stabilization. So I mentioned it doesn't have optical image stabilization. Electronic image stabilization is essentially Google reading the data from the gyroscope and then stabilizing your video. It's a feature for video, and I'll tell you, I'm testing it out. I'm shooting this with the Pixel XL, so we're going to see how it does on this in this scenario. But ideally, it's less shaky shots, especially when you're walking. It really feels like you're wearing a camera rig and you're taking steady shots. You feel like a professional photographer. In most cases, there's a little jerk when you move it, but I would say that it's just like, if you compare it, like walking with a Galaxy S7 or an iPhone to a Pixel or a Pixel XL, even in 4K video, which I'm shooting this in 4K by the way, it's incredible. So that's fantastic. And for photos and for everything, HDR plus auto is on by default. And essentially what Google's doing is they're comparing using what they call mathematical photography, your shots, especially in low light, and they're reducing noise and blur and giving you the clearest shots. They're combining shots in the back end. There's a little bit of a load thing, but it's very quick, which I don't like. And the result is when you take the shots, at the end of the day, you compare them to the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7, and they're usually clearer and brighter and more vibrant and more true to life than either of those two in low light and daytime settings. Now there are some quirks because it's software. And I will say this, if you are a professional photographer and you want a raw camera mode, and you want all the hardware features so that you can tweak it yourself, like open up the aperture, etc., you probably want optical image stabilization. You probably want the lowest possible aperture, etc. And so I would say go with the Galaxy S7. But for most people, for myself, for you know, the vast majority of people just taking their phones out and want to take great pictures, this is the best phone you can buy for that. So the problems with this approach, like I mentioned, raw photography if you're a professional photographer, and Samsung has the best camera app for that, much better than the iPhone 7. And you know, but for most people, this is the best thing you can get. Oh, front-facing camera. let me just say this is the best front-facing camera I've used. It is 8 megapixel and it takes better, more clear, more detailed pictures than the iPhone 7 for sure. It lacks the wide, sort of the wide angle lens, which I do miss from the Galaxy S7. But again, the photos are much clearer and higher resolution. So overall, I'd say this is the best selfie camera, front-facing camera I've used. Who uses it for anything in selfies? Maybe a video posts. Anyway. Okay, so moving on to good things. Screen. Screen is bright and beautiful. It's not quite as bright as the Pixel XL, and it's lower resolution. But honestly, this is a pet peeve of mine. You don't need a higher resolution on a 5-inch display, and even 5.5-inch than 1080p. All that does is impact performance, unless we're talking about VR, which I'll get to in a second. But this is a 1080p panel, which is higher resolution than the iPhone 7, lower resolution than the Galaxy S7, which is pushing a QHD display, despite being just 5.2 inches. And it's demonstrably better in every way if you're comparing this to an iPhone 7 than the iPhone 7. But if you compare it to the Galaxy S7, that has slightly better viewing angles and a higher resolution, and it is slightly brighter. This is not quite as bright as the LCD panel on the iPhone 7. That's the only advantage it has. But the viewing angles are much better. They're some of the best you can get outside of Samsung panels. And really, it's plenty bright. So I think this is one of the best screens out there. I wouldn't say it's better than the Galaxy S7's, but I'm repeating myself now. So next good thing, unlocked for all. So even Apple doesn't do this. So they sell a GSM variant of their iPhone 7 that doesn't work on CDMA carriers. So if you want Verizon, you have to buy the Verizon version if you want CDMA and GSM capability. This just has one model that works on everything. You can put it on any phone or on any carrier in the US. CDMA or GSM, that means Sprint, Verizon, works on most carriers internationally. So it's just simple. I love that. Phones need to do this more because it's entirely possible. This is another good thing. This is the fastest charging phone ever, aside from the Pixel XL, I'll say. So Google's claim is that you can get 7 hours of battery life in 15 minutes, and that's true for me. I don't need to charge it often, but when I do, I charge very quickly. Oddly, I'll say this, the Pixel charges just a hair faster than the Pixel XL, which has a much bigger battery. So that's a bit disappointing, but if you're using the included charger, it charges faster than the Galaxy S7 and certainly the iPhone 7, so it's still really, really great. Software, next good thing. A lot of good stuff on this phone. Software is fast, consistent, clean, and smooth. It's even a bit smoother in every scenario, like I mentioned, pushing less pixels than the Pixel XL. Not that the Pixel XL ever chugs. I'm just saying with graphically intensive games and apps, you may get slightly more frames on this, but really, the 821 can handle anything. But this is just pretty much the smoothest performance you can get on a phone right now. It's clean. There's no bloatware. It has a Google guarantee of 2 years support and fast security updates. Google Assistant is great. I know people like to talk about that. I don't care. It's a little better than Siri, and it's going to get better over time. But so far, it's unremarkable to me. The context is interesting, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. It's not why I bought the phone, but it is going to get better over time, and so you have a peace of mind, and also just right out of the box, it's less buggy than the Galaxy S7, which has, it's like the Swiss Army knife features, but it introduces a bunch of bugs and some TouchWiz lag. There is no TouchWiz lag. The touch response is in fact as quick as an iPhone, which is a first for Android. Google's done some low-level tweaks, and I love it. It's always been something I haven't liked about TouchWiz. It's smooth and delightful and great for anybody to use, techie or not. Bad. Let's talk about some bad stuff. We'll try to make this quick. No wireless charging. I got used to that on the Galaxy S7. It's a convenience thing. I like it. I wish this should have it. The iPhone should have it. This should have it. You go to a Starbucks, you can place it on the table and wirelessly charge. I have wireless chargers at home. It's just much easier. No Qualcomm Quick Charge 2.0. So yes, it does charge faster with the USB-C port. Technically, it's not Qualcomm Quick Charge 2.0 compatible, and that means right now there aren't a lot of accessories. I don't know of any actually, like a battery pack that will charge this super quickly. I just get regular charging speeds from most things that should charge it faster, unless you're using the included Google Wall Charger, which is just USB-C to USB-C, so it's kind of proprietary and hard to find. I would just keep that on you at all times. You'll get amazing charging times. If not, you'll just charge regularly, which is still faster than an iPhone. Next, no waterproofing. I miss this. I used to take my Galaxy S7 Edge into the shower, in the corner and play a podcast. Now I'm worried about this. It rains a lot in San Francisco. I worry about getting water on this. It's not made for that, so I don't recommend it. Certainly, if you drop it in the toilet or it drops into the ocean or something, it's not going to be good. And don't listen to those YouTubers that tell you it's fine. It's not. It's not a good idea. And that sucks because every other major, the Galaxy S7 has IP68. Samsung's had this for years. Apple even added this, and they don't add features until it's like they have to, right? They even take features away, as we know by the headphone jack. But anyway. Not my point. So the iPhone is not waterproof, and it looks similar to the previous design, which is a very good thing that Apple did. And that's just silly to me that this doesn't have that. Okay, next up, big bezels. This is not nearly as big of a problem on this phone as it is the larger Pixel XL. Still a problem. Far less noticeable, and they're really not that much bigger than the Galaxy S7. And you control your iPhone friends by saying, "Oh, this isn't an iPhone. I'd never get that. This is a Pixel," because it looks exactly like an iPhone, especially with a case on it. But other than that, the bezels are a bit too big. You go and you get another flagship phone from any Chinese manufacturer, and they have much smaller bezels. There's no reason for, especially this. There's nothing there. That's just silly. Next, no always-on display, a little thing, but it's nice on a Samsung, and this is an OLED screen, so you could totally do this. You do have ambient notifications. It'll turn on that part of the screen when you get a notification. Not the same. I liked being able to put it on a desk, see the time, see the date, some notifications that I had, and not waste battery life or my effort trying to turn on the phone, especially since there's no front-facing home button. I gotta, press the fingerprint sensor on the back, press this, little things, convenient stuff. Okay, next up, and second to last, penultimately, if you will, no dual or front-facing speakers. So this has a bottom single speaker, and it's fine. But the new iPhone has a bottom speaker and a top speaker for stereo speakers. It makes it feel a lot more equitable when you're listening to something. You hold the phone like this, and it just comes out here when you're watching a show, and it kind of takes you out of it. But the truth is, for me and for most people, I have a ton of Bluetooth accessories, and I wear headphones all the time. Another reason for the headphone jack. And I don't need my phone to be a boombox. It's nice to have front-facing speakers. The Samsung Galaxy S7 doesn't. It's about the same quality as this. But it's a nice to have. It's not core to the experience for me. And the last thing, and given that all these features are, these nice convenience features are not here, this is the thing that hurts the most. It's expensive. Now, again, this hurts less than the Pixel XL because it's 120 bucks less, and you have no compromises. I mean, it's just as fast, not faster, almost the same battery life, and really beautiful screen. You lack nothing. It's just smaller and more convenient, and it's cheaper. But it's still $649. It's very expensive, and it is what it is, right? So now let's get to the last part before we go to the verdict, which is ugly. What is ugly? So here's the ugly of the Pixel. This phone will not do VR very well. What I mean by that is it's going to look crappy. So it's got a 1080p display, and it's a smaller screen. So when you get a Google Daydream VR mounted display and you put this in, it's going to be smaller, less immersive, and it's going to be lower resolution because you're splitting the screen in two. When you split 1080p in two, you can see the individual pixels. So that would be the one main reason I would say get the larger Pixel XL along with battery life. QHD display handles VR much better. So that's the thing that if you're into VR, maybe you don't want to get this phone, but really, I mean, that's another nice to have, right? It's not core to the experience, and you can still do it. So I could be wrong. I'm going to test it. But my assumption, based on using basically every VR headset there is out there, is that is going to make a demonstrable difference, especially if this is an important thing for you. Okay, so now let's get to should you buy? Is this the best smartphone to buy? Yes. If you can afford it, buy this phone, and you want a smaller phone. Best value for the price? It's complicated. I said no for the larger Pixel XL, but for this, it's complicated, right? So it's very hard to find, even from any Chinese manufacturer, a no-compromise 5-inch or smaller phone with the latest processor and all the latest tech. Well, that's this, right? So $650 is too much for a 32GB phone in today's day and age when you can get a $300 phone with almost the same stuff. But you'll have to get a bigger phone. It's harder to find a smaller phone like this. They do exist. But there are zero compromises, and even better. This probably has the best performance of any phone right now. Even better than the Pixel XL in every fringe situation, right? So in that sense, if you want a smaller top spec phone that's cheaper than the larger version with nothing less to offer, then yes, it's worth it. If you want to save over half of the cost, like 60%, and get something that's almost as good with maybe just a little compromise, no, it's not the best value for the money. But it's complicated. Next question, should I upgrade from another flagship smartphone? No, if you already own a Galaxy S7 or an iPhone 7, this phone's better, but it's not $700 better, right? But if you don't, if you own any other phone from 2016, yes, this phone is great, and it's going to last for 2 years, and it's a dream, and it's only going to get better if you can afford it. Next question: should I get the Pixel XL or the Pixel? It depends, and I'll do a separate video on this, like I said. Pixel is just as powerful. Smaller battery and slightly worse battery life, won't do VR as well. Little smoother in every fringe situation. $120 cheaper. This is a big one with all the same benefits. Feels better in the hand for most people, easier to use one-handed. And if you're watching this review, to this point, you're probably looking at the Pixel because you like the size. And if that's the case, get it. Just go for it if you can afford it. This phone's fantastic. No compromise, smaller phone. All right, verdict. This is the best phone you can buy right now, especially if you want a 5-inch phone, and you should if you can. It's only going to benefit from Google's 2-year updates, 2-year guarantee, and usability on any carrier. And if you want to see how the Pixel XL stacks up against the larger competition, the Pixel XL, check out my other review. And you can also be on the lookout for a Pixel to Pixel XL comprehensive sort of Android showdown comparison where I'm going to go into the details and I'll show you different things about the phones. There aren't that many differences, but it's worth a video. In the meantime, hope that helped, and go get yourself a Pixel.